Some cases more of a snow event, and as it pulls away from the GTA early Saturday, it will continue to snow in areas in central eastern Lake Huron and southern Georgia Bay. So if you do have some essential travel on the day, during the day on Saturday, it could be a little dicey in areas from Goderich north to Tobermory and basically over to Barrie and areas east to Georgian Bay as well. So be careful on Saturday. Sunday, here in the city, 0. We're looking at just a few isolated flurries, and then we settled in about where we should be on Monday and Tuesday with highs -2. Overnight lows have been closer to the seasonal norm of -10, but not quite making it there. Winds probably will. We're looking at more widespread scattered flurries on Tuesday, though no major storm systems on the horizon past the one that's coming later this afternoon and evening. And then next Wednesday, we're looking at overcast and -1, a slight moderation on Thursday as well. There's some indication there'll be another round of much cooler air coming in for the following week. But if that's the case, we'll get a lot more sunshine, so maybe that's not such a bad trade-off to make. Grab those umbrellas if you have to head out later this afternoon. I'll have more on the short-range forecast coming right up.
Well, the good news is the drive ahead of you on any of the major routes around the GTA pretty lightly traveled, and I don't have any lane restrictions to pass your way. There was a road crew. Let me show you the East Gardiner now. They've since cleared, but I'll show you what it looks like. It's moving up to speed. And again, that's what we're seeing on pretty much all of the major routes in and around the city. So that's the good news on the major routes. Let's show you Steeles and Martin Grove, although it looks like crews have sort of panned around the intersection. But essentially right at this intersection, a collision. So you can see motorists are dealing with lane restrictions in all directions. A good stretch to avoid. Another area to avoid, Midland shut down both ways just north of Lawrence at Midwest. That was for a police investigation. So again, you're being told to avoid that area.
CP24 traffic report is brought to you by CapitalDirect.ca.
Toronto's breaking news. CP24, the Raptors put the brakes on a 2-game losing skid with a victory over the Charlotte Hornets. We'll have the highlights after the break.
What's Toronto's plan for the second wave?
What we have to do is stay the course.
Get your questions answered live by Mayor John Tory and Dr. Isaac Bogosh.
We need lots of viewpoints on the vaccine rollout plan.
Send them in to now@cp24.com.
We're looking to avoid losing 3 straight last night as they took on the Charlotte Hornets.
Working with Boucher. A little bit of space. Let it fly!
Chris Boucher had a monster game, scoring 25 points and grabbing 10 rebounds. The Raptors led by 9 at halftime, but Charlotte came on strong in the second half. Kyle Lowry dished out 12 assists, recording his 4,000th as a Raptor. Toronto beat Charlotte 111-108 to improve to a 3-8 on the season. They take on the Hornets again tomorrow.
Boucher on the front.
This is Toronto's breaking news. CP24, the Prime Minister will be speaking to Canadians in the next few minutes. We'll bring that to you live as soon as it begins. Look outside Rideau Cottage, where we are waiting to hear from Prime Minister Justin Treadeau. We'll bring that to you live as soon as it begins. New federal models show an estimated 10,000 cases per day by the end of the month as cases and hospitalizations rise across the country. The city of Vaughan is closing its outdoor skating rinks, a toboggan hill, and a dog park in response to rising cases of COVID-19. It's 11:30. 5 degrees from 299 Queen Street West. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Hello, I'm Jamie Goodfriend. Ontario is reporting 2,998 new cases of COVID-19 and 100 new deaths, including 46 from Middlesex London Health Unit not previously reported. More than 76,400 tests were processed, which is a new record. In the GTA, the numbers are as follows. 800 new cases here in Toronto, 618 in Peel Region, 250 in York. Durham Region has 113 new cases, while Halton has 81 and Hamilton has 138. The latest modeling numbers were released today in Ottawa. Dr. Theresa Tam had an update on active cases.
Currently, there are almost 78,000 active cases in Canada, which is about 5,000 more active cases than a month ago. The total number of cumulative cases is now almost 689,000. Canada continues to monitor for virus variants. that may be associated with an increased risk of spread. To date in Canada, there have been 23 cases with the B1117 variant first reported in the United Kingdom, and 2 cases with the 501Y.V2 variant first reported in South Africa.
A member of Premier Ford's caucus has been tossed for a letter he wrote asking for an end to the lockdown. Roman Baber, the MPP for York Centre and chair of the Justice Policy Committee, claims the medicine is killing the patient. His letter cites a rise in suicides, overdoses, bankruptcies, and divorces due to the lockdown, as well as rising anxiety rates among children. Baber says the fear of COVID-19 is exaggerated as the crisis is largely limited to long-term care settings. Premier Ford announced today that Baber is out of the caucus and will not be allowed to seek re-election as a PC member. Well, his statement reads, Mr. Baber's comments are irresponsible. By spreading misinformation, he is undermining the tireless efforts of our frontline healthcare workers at this critical time, and he is putting people at risk. I will not jeopardize a single Ontarian's life by ignoring public health advice. There is no room for political ideology in our fight against COVID-19. Rather, our response has been and will always be driven by evidence and data. A few pop-up COVID-19 testing centers are operating today at community centers across the city. Well, this is one of the centers at TNO Youth Center on Thorncliffe Park Drive. Testing is also being offered at Dennis R. Timbrell Resource Center, Oak Ridge Community Recreation Center, Warden Woods Community Center, and the Jenner Jean Marie Community Center. All of these assessment centers are accepting walk-ins and are open from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Ottawa's warning of a temporary delay in Pfizer's vaccine shipments. The federal procurement minister says the delay is due to the company's expansion plans at its European plant, but insists it won't impact Ottawa's vaccine rollout.
This is a temporary reduction. It's not a stoppage. So we are going to see continued vaccines coming in from Pfizer and, of course, Moderna over the next weeks, but there will be a reduction in doses, and that is the purpose of my being here. It is going to be temporary. It's not a loss, and we will make up those doses. Pfizer has told us that those doses will continue to arrive in greater numbers throughout the month of February and March, so that we are on track for the end of March.
Canada has secured more than 400 million vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, the only two currently approved. More than 459,000 shots have been administered across the country so far, which represents 1.2% of the population. The city of Vaughan is closing its outdoor amenities in response to rising cases of COVID-19. And for more, let's go live to CP24's Christina Tenali with more on that. Christina.
Yeah, so this is the first city in the GTA that has made this decision. Let me show you what we have here. We're here at Dufferin Clark Community Center in the city of Vaughan. So we have a skating rink closed, security monitoring to make sure nobody stops by. Actually, in contrast to that, a sign here that says maximum 25 skaters, that's no longer in effect. And if we flip things around, there's a playground here. Playgrounds remain open. We recognize this might be baffling to a number of people, that skating rinks, tobogganing hills, dog parks are closed, but you could still hang out at a playground, which you couldn't do in the province under stage 1 and stage 2. So we have met a few people who have come by here today. One gentleman who says he spent his career in hockey. He brought his son, who's, I understand, not even to be a year old, and skates, and he was so frustrated. He said to me, you know, the most recognizable person in this country is Wayne Gretzky. Why can't our kids just go out and skate on the skating rink? To help answer that, here's Mayor Mauricio Bevilacqua.
We felt as a city that this decision was the right one. You probably remember early on in COVID-19, when we were the first municipality and city to declare a state of emergency, some people thought we overreacted. Then we proceeded immediately to close down City Hall as well as the libraries and community centers. As history has shown, we were correct.
So the closure of skating rinks, tobogganing hills, dog parks in the city of Vaughan is effective as of now, as of this morning, I believe it goes until February the 11th when the province's stay-at-home order expires. Keep in mind that could be extended. The City of Vaughan's going to get back in touch with me as for a timeline as to how long this will last. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Christina. Inspectors sent out by the province will be out in force this weekend to ensure that safety measures are being followed at big box stores. And for more, let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. And even the Premier talked about this and sent out a stern warning. Oh, actually, we're going to go to Ottawa right now, where the Prime Minister is speaking. Let's listen in.
Hello, everyone. Today, I want to update you on all on three key elements of our fight against COVID-19: modeling, testing, and vaccines. Let me start with modeling. This morning, Dr. Tam and Dr. New presented new models that show the potential spread of the virus over the next few weeks. The reality is that right now, hospitalizations are still on the rise in many provinces. While vaccine doses are being delivered every week, we need to keep reducing in-person contacts. For the moment, that's the only way to get these numbers down. Since yesterday, Ontario is now under a stay-at-home order. This is the kind of tough but necessary decision that provincial governments are having to make. I spoke with Premier Ford directly on Wednesday. I told him, as always, the federal government is here to help. We talked about rapid testing and the role that could play in keeping these numbers down. We also, of course, let him know that federal help is available wherever needed, including and especially for long-term care homes. The outbreaks happening in long-term care homes in Ontario and across the country are not only incredibly concerning, they're also tragic. Our parents and grandparents built this country. They raised us, and they deserve so much better. And it is vital that we continue to get vaccines to vulnerable people as quickly as we can. And that's exactly what we're focused on. But remember, no one is invincible. Even if you're young and healthy, this virus can be dangerous. That's why we all have to keep doing our part. We're also constantly monitoring variants of COVID-19 with governments across the country, including the concerning Brazil variant. We're doing whatever it takes to protect Canadians, including looking at banning certain flights if necessary. Decisions must be based on public health guidance, and as always, our ministers are actively leaning in on this and talking to experts to reach a determination without delay. We will continue to keep Canadians informed of any new decisions we take. To people in Ontario now under the stay-at-home order, I know this isn't how you wanted to start the new year. It probably feels like a deja vu all over again from 2020. This won't last forever. But for now, we have to buckle down. This is our best way through in the coming weeks of winter. We've seen the kinds of impossible choices hospitals in other countries had to face when they become overwhelmed. Deciding who gets an ICU bed and who doesn't, well, that's not where we want to be. So please, keep following public health guidelines and stay safe. Au Québec aussi.
In Quebec as well, it's very important for people to continue to follow public health directives and measures to decrease the number of cases and hospitalization rates. As you know, the pandemic has impacts going way beyond just those who test positive. When hospitals are overwhelmed, we all suffer. We all learned a new word, offloading. That means thousands of surgeries that are being put off. There's also the fact that monitoring cannot be done for cancer, for example, putting more lives at risk, and healthcare providers are exhausted from having to make so many difficult decisions. I know that we are tired and that the measures are strict, but while we continue to vaccinate those who are most vulnerable, we absolutely need to flatten this wave, the second wave. From the very beginning, our response to the pandemic has been based on science and the best data possible. However, on Wednesday, during the virtual cabinet meeting, Different experts came to give us information, including Dr. Dr. Niemer, the president of the Public Health Agency of Canada, and the two vice presidents, or co-presidents rather, on the working group on vaccinations and the vaccination roundtable. This morning, the expert panel on testing and so on was published. First, I'd like to thank the two co-presidents, Sue Page and Dr. Irfan Dalla, as well as all of the members of the committee. Since the fall, we have distributed more than 14 million rapid test kits to the provinces and territories. The committee's report this morning makes recommendations on how to best use these rapid test kits in an optimal manner. High-risk areas and centers such as schools and long-term care centers is very important.
The advisory panel published their first report this morning. In it, they laid out evidence-informed advice on science and policy for COVID-19 testing and screening. The panel has identified 4 priority areas of action to reduce the spread of the virus, protect Canada's most vulnerable, and limit the impact of the disease on the healthcare system and on the economy. So far, we've sent more than 14 million rapid tests to the provinces and territories, with more on the way. Effective testing and screening is key to stopping COVID-19 transmission and limiting outbreaks in long-term care settings, schools, workplaces, and other high-risk locales. We all have to work together to use these rapid tests to slow the spread of the virus. Today, I also want to talk about where we are with vaccines. On Tuesday, I announced that we reached an agreement with Pfizer to buy an additional 20 million doses of their vaccine. Yesterday, Major General Fortin confirmed that as of today, almost 1 million vaccine doses have been delivered to the provinces and territories. We're working day in and day out to get vaccines delivered as quickly as possible. Shipments have largely been ahead of schedule so far, but with an undertaking this historic, it's only to be expected that there will be a few bumps along the way. Earlier this morning, Minister Anand talked about her conversation with Pfizer Canada regarding impacts to vaccine production. Due to work to expand one of the company's manufacturing facilities, deliveries to all countries receiving Pfizer doses made at the European facility will be temporarily reduced. This includes Canada. I want to be very clear. This does not impact our goal to have enough vaccines available by September for every Canadian who wants one. It will also not change our second quarter goals. Canada must still get ready for the ramp-up phase in Q2. This kind of issue is out of our hands, and that's why we pursued an aggressive procurement strategy in the first place. Canada has one of the most diverse vaccine portfolios in the world, and we secured the largest number of doses per capita of any country. We have 7 bilateral agreements to ensure flexibility when it comes to supply chains. And like I said, this situation with Pfizer is temporary.
This week alone, we have delivered.
No matter where you live, we've got you back. Yesterday, a request for additional support was approved by the federal government for Nain in Newfoundland and Labrador. The Canadian Rangers will help with the vaccination effort, as many vulnerable and elderly people in the community need help getting to and from the vaccination site. In Ontario, we approved an extension for the Canadian Red Cross until March 31st to continue supporting isolation and recovery centres for temporary foreign workers in the Windsor-Essex region. And in Manitoba, an extension has also been approved so that the Canadian Red Cross can provide general support as well as support to personal care homes until March 31st. Far too many families are facing the heartbreaking realities of what's happening in care homes across the country. This is a crisis we all need to work together on. And as we have from the very beginning, the federal government will always be there when it's needed most. Before I wrap it up for today, I also want to take a minute to talk about housing. With rising homelessness and housing needs, The COVID-19 crisis has made it clear that affordable housing will be key to Canada's recovery. Everyone deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. In September, we announced an investment of $1 billion to the Rapid Housing Initiative. Today, we can announce the details of the over $203 million that was allocated for Toronto. The city will be starting 7 projects to create more than 500 new affordable homes. These will be prioritized for people experiencing homelessness. Of the total number of new homes, 20% will also be prioritized for Indigenous communities and 20% for women and girls. That takes us to nearly half of the new units that will go to people who are especially vulnerable when it comes to housing.
Earlier this week, Minister Hussein also announced